Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Chasing 70 Degrees. My name is Travis, and if you've been following along, I've been doing some modifications to my 2020 Jeep Wrangler JL Unlimited Sport. And I've also been doing some work here on my eCells e-bike as well, so be sure to check those videos out for some other modifications. But in this video, I'm going to be doing what I'm going to refer to as the easiest, hardest install you will ever deal with. Now, I'm going to be doing the LED Sidemarker lights. I'm going to be replacing my factory default lights with the Oracle LED part number 5853-504. Now, I've already done the installation on the driver's side, which is why I'm saying it will be the easiest, hardest install you've ever done. Easy because it's really a single push pin that you need to pop out in order to pull back the protective material to get access to the housing, where you can not only unscrew with a Torx T25 bit, unscrew the OE factory side marker light and pop it out. But where it gets really difficult and where I struggled, and my best advice to you is if you're going to try to do this, make sure before you close back up the protective covering that goes in front of the side marker light where you would access it, make sure you test the light and turn your lights on to see that it comes on. Because this connector, and I'm going to give you a very good close-up of the connector as well as show you exactly how I got it disconnected, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to see how I get it connected up because it is so tight in there. And this connector is so small. It is the tiniest connector I have ever seen. So it would have been nice if it would have been a little larger, but it's not. So anyway, I persevered, got it in on the driver's side. So let's go ahead and take a look at the tools that are going to be required to get this installation done. Now, I also want to close out by saying here that I purchased this part by myself. This is not sponsored by Oracle. I was not given any of these parts by Oracle. However, I am a huge fan of their products. I have not had a single issue with any Oracle product that I've installed. They've been absolutely amazing. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the parts we need to get the LED side marker. And again, it's got sort of a smoked look to it, and you'll see that here in a second. Let's get it on and let's get it done. All right, so as I commented earlier, we've got a single push pin. Now, I have a screwdriver type Trisalto trim removal tool, but this one here I think is going to be a little bit better in that tight space. I ran into some issues if you watch my previous video where I was replacing the side marker bulb so that it would be the Oracle LED the switchback bulb. When I replaced the switchback bulb, I used a screwdriver that is from Trisalto that has the trim removal piece at the end, and that was just a little bit too tight. And with the tires I have on this Jeep, it was a really tight fit in there. So I'm going to use this tool here, and like I said, I've done the driver's side, and this tool works great. Here is the factory OE side marker light, and this right here is going to be your worst nightmare on this install. Getting it out is what we've got, that screwdriver, that tiny screwdriver in the background, and you can see just how small this connector is. And so this is the factory OE LED that we pulled out, and if you look here, this is the screwdriver that we're going to be using to sort of pop the pin to get that connector out so that we can get and not damage sort of the wiring harness. And the harness actually goes, it's sort of together with the wiring harness for the switchback LED. Now, I would also highly, highly recommend the Amartesian, and I've got a link to all of these components. I'm going to flip it over for you here. All of these components down below. And so this is the Torx T25. And so that is literally the only screw holding that side marker in is a Torx T25 screw, right? And so that's the easy part. The hard part is what we have this LED light for. I tried to use my iPhone here on the driver's side right here when I did the install, and it just did not produce enough light. And so I'm going to drop this in into the housing area there underneath the wheel well to see if this LED light is going to give us some better lighting, because that, I mean, combining the size and the fragility of this little teeny connector, and you probably don't want to bust this thing up on the new Sidemarker light. This connector, getting it out and then more importantly, getting it back in is extremely, extremely nerve-wracking. And so it's super tough to see up in there. Another recommendation, there's a screw, and you saw that when I did my previous video on the Switchback LED. I might even recommend taking that screw out. Now, I did not do that on the driver's side. I don't plan on doing it on the passenger side. And let's go ahead and see what is going to happen. And before we do, let me go ahead. Sorry, I got a little movement with the camera. And so there is that Sidemarker LED, right? And it's kind of got that black smoke finish. And if I was to pull back away from the Jeep, right, that's kind of what it looks like right there. So it's actually, you know, again, I kind of like that blacked out look, and I've done the Oracle Oculus, sorry, not the Oculus, the LED rear brake lights and that black smoke look. And so I think this is adds a really nice touch. All right, well, let's get set up, and let's see how this is going to work over on the passenger side. All right, so here we are, and here is again the single push pin that needs to be removed. And so, lesson learned from yesterday, I have a much easier time using this blue Trisalto tool as opposed to the screwdriver. Again, the screwdriver is a little bit longer than this and causes a little bit of friction with the tire. And so here is that push pin. So let's get the push pin up here on the fender. We can put the Trisalto tool to the side for now. And now comes the interesting part, right? So we're going to pull back and get a grip on this here. These gloves are not cooperating at all. There we go. All right, so we are going to pull this back. I'm actually going to put some force on this and bend this out in the hopes that that you're able to see in here. And let me take a look at the camera and see. So what you're seeing here is that is not the screw, right? So remember, here is the switchback LED housing right here, and this is where we inserted that the bulb yesterday. Now, when you look at this, you might think that that is the torque screw here, but it is not. It is actually down the side here, and that is what is holding in the Sidemarker. So it's a Torx T25 right down in here. Again, I've got this light. I'm not sure how much value it's adding. We'll have to see when we run this back. But I'm going to go ahead and get the Torx T25 in there. And this is going to be interesting just because of the angle. And I apologize if my head gets in there. And so again, it's right there, right? So it's kind of right to the side. And there's the screw. The screw is like way over here that you may want to remove. There's another push pin that you could pop out, but I was able to do it with just getting one out of the way. And so let me actually hold the light with that hand there. And you can see the harness is right here. And I think what I may do is pull the camera off and do a close-up here after I get this Torx T25 screw, which is very difficult to see in there. All right, so here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and be careful not to pull the screw all the way out. You're going to want to leave it in there so that when we go to reinsert the new Sidemarker LED, that it's right there and that it doesn't fall out. All right, so we're almost all the way out there. Let me take a couple more twists here and see if we can't work it all the way out. All right, and that should be it, and that is, right? So as you can see, right, so here's the OE Sidemarker, and the screw is still hanging in there. And in fact, I can actually reach my finger in here, and let me put the light down here for a second, get my finger in there and poke that screw forward to make sure it stays in that tiny little housing it's in. All right, and so I think here is where I'm gonna have to pull the camera down, and I'm gonna bring the camera over here so that you can see, and there is like no slack at all on this connector for this light, right? I mean, there is zero slack here. So let me pull the camera over and let's take a close-up look of what this little connector that I keep complaining about looks like. All right, so here we are. Let me get this in focus here, under the wheel well. and I've got the light, and what you're looking at is, this is the switchback cabling here. This, like right above it, and really kind of almost a part of it, and they come together, that right there is the connector, and there's this little teeny tab on the bottom of it. I'm trying to get that in focus here. Let me spin it around. I'm trying to get that in focus for you. But there's this little teeny tab on the bottom that you could use like a really small screwdriver, and that's what I'm going to use. And I apologize if that's not in focus. Again, if I bring you here, you can see there's the original light, there's that screw, right? So there's your Torx T25 screw, and you want to keep it right there. You don't want this to fall back out, so you have to try to fish it back in there. So it's very important you try to keep it right where it's at. But again, and I wish I could get a better shot here for you of that little connector right there. And again, it is tiny. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the camera back onto the tripod, and I'm going to pop the connector out using a screwdriver. And again, there's just a little teeny tab on the end of it that you just flick it with the screwdriver and the whole thing comes out, right? It comes right out. And again, that's the easy part. The hard part is getting the new connector back in there. All right, well, let's take a look and see what the rest of this install is going to look like. I'm going to, like, again, set this back down on the tripod, and I'm going to pop that out. And you're not going to be able to see me kind of flick the pin that's on there to get it out. There's just no room to get that camera up in there. All right, so let's go ahead and get this back on the tripod. All right, so before we pop it out, I totally forgot to show you, right? So here is the new Oracle Sidemarker smoke, right? And here's what it looks like. I'm going to leave the plastic kind of protective sheeting on here until we're all done. And let me go ahead now and pop out the connector, and this is the unfun part right here. So I'm trying to get that set up there so I've got some light, and it's the top one, and there it is. And let's see if I can't get underneath it here, because man, there is no room to work with this thing at all. And it is very difficult to get this out of here. All right. And so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of pushing on it with the screwdriver, or pulling the pin away, and there we go, right? So again, that's kind of the easy part, and you already saw this little connector already, but there's a little pin here on the connector in there that you just kind of pull away as you're kind of pulling gently on this. And again, let me stress that, make sure you're pulling gently on this. And that's it. So here's the old Sidemarker. We're going to ditch that guy. And this is an easy part of the install. So here is where we are going to fish through, and this is going to come right through here. Whoops. There we go. All right, so we've got the new LED in here. I got to be careful there because we do not want to lose that Torx T25 screw. And give me a second here. This is not coming through there we go, where I had anticipated it was going to come through. All right, so we've got the new LED Sidemarker. Let me go ahead and let me prop this, see if this light props up, give us a little more light up in here. And I apologize, it is definitely tough to see in there, but you will see exactly what I'm talking about when you start working with this. All right, so now we're going to be very careful here. It looks like that Torx screw came down again. So I'm trying to get the Torx T25 bit in there. Good. Okay, so I've got connectivity with the Torx screw. Okay, I've got the light seated in here, and actually it does not want to seat in there. Hold on one second. Whoops, and that screw's getting ready to fall right out. There we go. All right, so There we go. So now I've got it there. It's flush now. So now I'm going to start twisting the torque screw into the new side marker, and this is definitely some work right here, without a doubt. And it is a very, very snug fit, right? In the side marker, the new side marker should not be flapping around at all. I noticed on the driver's side when I did it, you really need to torque it down, no pun intended, to make sure that it's not kind of like jiggling around, right? And so, you know, you want to give it a few extra cranks. And there we go. And it's still turning a little bit. Let's make sure. And there we go. And you'll feel it at the very end. You'll feel it kind of tighten up. And that's when the new Oracle LED side marker stops moving around, right? So it's in there. It's like that's the bumper moving now. Okay, so that's definitely in there. All right, so that part is over with. Now comes the challenging part, and that is getting the new Oracle LED side marker lamp connector into the connector that's up here. Now this light is definitely helping. You're probably not going to be able to see again, but it's kind of self-explanatory. We just have to get this end of the connector into the end that's up there, and I am going to try to do that. Whoa! See, we got the light bouncing around here. All right, so what I noticed was there was actually a little tie wrap up in here, and I couldn't, it's black, and so it was almost impossible to see. Well, I have just cut that tie wrap with these vice grip snips, right? And that has given me lots of play here, right? It's allowed me to bring the connector much closer and allowed me to like literally kind of grab onto it. And let me see if I can now get this to slide in here a little easier, because we certainly do now have enough cable. I need to move the light, but I need the light. All right. And this has got to be flipped over so that it locks in when I clip it in there. And come on now. I mean, this is just still giving me, it's just so small, the connector. I'm going to be amazed if this turns on after I clip it in here. And there we go. I think I've got it here. Now, it like goes in, but then it like slides out. There we go. Okay. There, it just clicked. All right, so I think I've got it. So I'm going to turn the car on now, and let's see if we've got connectivity. All right, so stand by. All right, fantastic. It might be a little difficult to see, but the car is on, and miraculously, that light is working. Again, the easiest, hardest install you will ever do right there. I'm going to back it up, and we're going to do a walk around. Again, I'm pretty close to the garage, and so I'm going to have to back it up a little bit, and then we'll do a walk around with the lights on, and you can see what the Sidemarker smoked LED from Oracle looks like, installed on a 2020 Jeep Wrangler JL Unlimited Sport. All right, so now it's time for a quick walk around here. So there are the Oracle Sidemarker black smoke LEDs, right? Or there's one of them anyway. And I really like it. If we get close in here, you can see there's that switchback Oracle LED that we installed the other day, right? And so it runs white unless you've got the blinker on. And again, this was a very simple install, but a very annoying install because of the size of the connector that you have for that Sidemarker LED. And here's the passenger side again. It's in there really tight, really nice. And the only thing I didn't show you was, folding that material back and putting the push pin in. But we've seen that enough over the last couple of days. And there is that switchback LED in the white casing. But again, I really like that smoke look. It's much different than the factory OE part. And I think it looks really, really nice. Again, super simple to get in there, to get that Torx T25 out to get the OE part out. The challenge is going to come when you have to use a little screwdriver to kind of pop out the existing cable connection to the chassis wiring harness, and then when you have to connect it back up. It was not easy, and it was very tight in terms of not having any slack on this side. There wasn't too much slack on the other side, but there was definitely a little bit more. But on this side, it was literally like a tightrope from the new switchback LED cable into the chassis cable. All right, well, that is going to do it for this video on how to install the Oracle LED Sidemarker lights. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it's going to help you out and get you fired up about maybe replacing your Sidemarker lights. And I've got a link down below, affiliate link down below, where you can order the parts right off Amazon. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your week, and as always, enjoy the chase.